We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered, and we're on to a new StreamYard subscription, Tom. That's why things were a little bit hinky in the setup here, because I went for the discount, which meant entering a new email address, and I got rid of all my settings from before. So I was hurriedly making little changes behind the scenes here, and if our name tags looks different, it's because I just randomly selected a gray color, which is not the same gray color we used to have for our little lower third name tags there. So very new era. It's so different. Big changes afoot.
Okay.
Yep.
So my last week. So my youngest son had his birthday. He is apparently 17. I thought he was 16. Like, whatever.
Third of three. Can't be bothered to count anymore.
Well, that's not it. No one was surprised I had the birthday age wrong.
Okay.
I'm often wrong about such things. My memory does not work on certain things. It works really well on some stuff and not really well on others. So, I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but I've had multiple people throughout my life tell me how much they appreciated how after their cancer diagnosis, I treated them like normal. I did not make a big deal about it, and constantly, everybody else is asking them how they're doing, and treating them with kid gloves, and I'm always treating them the same, and I'm like, "You have cancer?" And they're like, "Yes, I have cancer."
Forgot that little detail.
Just a small detail.
Minor
it has not
nuance.
happened to me once, and it's not only happened to me once with the same person. They have multiple times had to remind me that they had cancer. I was like, I'm sorry. How are you doing? They're like, all right, you're ruining it. So, so yes. So it was a big week for my son, and he's getting back into the swing of things around here. He's getting ready for SAT and prepping for school and all these other things. So nothing exciting happening here. Nothing exciting in my life. Just lots of running people around. What's going on with you?
Yes. Yeah, well, speaking of running around, rather unnecessarily, to be honest, but it's just I'm not gonna get into family members' business and stuff like that. But as I've mentioned on the podcast before, one of my aunts is in assisted living, and so, as is very common, she got basically a minor skin rash, and then she has dementia. So look. People without dementia, you tell them not to scratch a rash and then scratch another part of their body. That doesn't work for folks who have completely functioning memories. It happens to someone with dementia. If something itches, she's going to scratch, and then she's going to scratch another part of her body. So yes, this rash has been going all around and blah, blah, blah. It's really not that big a deal, but on the weekends, there's different staff. They often have the trainees are there on the weekends for a little bit. It's not quite as busy type of thing. And so, they, the multiple calls, multiple pictures, very concerned at that. And it's so in my family, my mom and my sister, my mom is retired, but they're both nurses. My sister still is a nurse, and so they took a quick glance at the pictures, and it's nothing. It's just a minor thing. And then there is a pharmacist who isn't exactly on staff at the assisted living because he works at other places too, but he visits and that. And so thankfully he took a look and he's like, yeah, we'll put some hydrocortisone on it. It's there's nothing to be done. Like, this is not an emergency. It's not life threatening in any way, shape, or form, anything like that. But it was a lot of worry over a very minor thing that was going on, and it's all a little bit silly. But regardless, we're gonna go ahead, book the doctor's visit, and the doctor's gonna say, yeah, put some hydrocortisone on it, and that's gonna be that. And I already know what it's gonna be, but that's all happening. So that's the fun. That's the fun of being the primary, like, decision maker and caregiver for family members at this point. And that's what's been going on. It's silly. It's silly stuff.
All right.
Yes.
Very exciting.
Isn't it, though? No out-of-pocket costs, though. Hooray.
Oh, there you go. Socialized medicine, baby.
Yes.
All right. This week, we mostly watched Tour de France stuff.
Okay. Yep.
As the tour was wrapping itself up. When Jonas crashed out, so there's two main contenders to win the Tour de France.
I have no knowledge of any of this, so it'll all be news to me.
Yes, Tadej Pogačar, who has won like the last 2 years, I believe.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's right. And Jonas Vingegaard, who's on a different team, who won the 2 years previous to that. So Tadej is going for his 5th win, which would tie the record for most wins of anybody who wasn't caught doping and
right. I was kind of going to ask if there's
jackhole about it.
If there's any like scandals going on with these two folks, but
so
it just seems to be a common thing.
Yeah, they are. One of the scandals, if you will, is Jonas dropped out of the race because he crashed. And the night before he crashed, they woke that entire team up randomly at 2 a.m. to drug test him. Because there are certain drugs that wear off after a certain period of time. And they wanted to see if if they could catch him doing whatever. And they passed the test, which is great.
Okay.
If you watched Tour de France Unchained, or whatever they called it on Netflix, that it was like 2 or 3 years of documentaries about that, like following around the tour and doing talking a little bit about what happens behind the scenes and interviewing people and stuff like that. If you watch that on Netflix, they desperately wanted there to be a bad guy.
Right.
First year they tried to make
a narrative.
Yes, the first year they tried to make Tadej Pogačar the bad guy, and they're like, every picture you see of him is him smiling and patting people on the back and hugging babies. He's just the nicest guy. And they're like, oh, Tadej, he won last year, and this is Jonas's year to come back. And Jonas did win that year, and it was very exciting, and we watched it and we liked it. But they so badly tried to make him the bad guy, and it was such a fail. So basically, Tadej and Jonas are both contenders for the crown. They both win a lot of races. They both win a lot of stages. They're both phenomenal cyclists, but they are so super dorky and sweet that it's impossible to turn them into the Joker. You just cannot do it. They're just like
you really don't have to. A sports documentary does not have to have a villain.
This, but Netflix desperately wanted it, and then they turned. I think in the last season they turned Jasper Philipsen, who's a sprinter, and everything else. And honestly, he's kind of a jerk, but he's not that bad from what I can see. He's about what you would expect. I mean, these people are ultra competitive. They're at the top of their game. They want to win.
That's why people watch sports. You can have a rivalry without an actual bad guy.
Yeah. So they kind of turned him into a jerk in there, which wasn't that hard. All I have to do is edit the footage and where he's angry about losing, and he kind of comes off as
you get the one still image, and the camera slowly zooms in, and you get the music in the background. Yes.
So they kind of turned him into a jerk, and I think everybody else went, well, I don't want to become a jerk on Netflix, and I don't know what really happened. So they only did it for a couple of years. It was interesting to watch, but the only thing I've said about this is because these guys are so nice, and everybody. I mean, there's obviously some people that I have problems with on the tour, but generally speaking, these two top guys are so nice and so sweet that you're rooting for both of them. My wife is like, I'm tired of Tade winning all the time. I'm like, well, I mean, he can't be stopped. The man is insane. Like, I don't understand how his body works that way. And the only thing I've said about this is that it would break my heart if I found out that one of these two guys was doping. It would absolutely break my heart because they really do seem to be the nicest guys. And I've said this about Jonas a number of times. It's like, if you met him on the road, you would be like, he's the best in the world at something. What would you think he's the best in the world at? And you would go, spelling bee? Would it be spelling bee? Because he looks like this little nerd. And he's so nice. So, yes, we watched the end of the tour. That was fun. But other than that, we haven't really watched much. So,
all right. Not a big home theater time this past week.
No, it wasn't. Tom. I'll finish Wonder Man this week, I think. So
okay.
We'll see.
Well, I did have a home theater time, and that was watching the one movie that I watched this week, which was the brand new Mortal Kombat II. So this is a sequel to the reboot of the movie version of Mortal Kombat that came out 3-4 years ago.
Reboot being that good. Am I remembering that? Like, why did that get a sequel?
Yeah, no, the reboot was okay. Like, they went for a very different tone. They went for a much more serious tone. And like, so yeah, what's interesting here is Mortal Kombat 2, this is a direct sequel. It is the same director returning, Simon McQuoid. And honestly, on his IMDb, he's got like 2 other directing credits prior to that, so the Mortal Kombat franchise is definitely like his claim to fame right now. So quite a tonal shift, in my opinion, from Mortal Kombat, the reboot that came out, I think it's 4 years ago, and now this sequel, Mortal Kombat 2. Quite the tonal shift. Very obvious reaction to the fan criticisms of the reboot. Now, yeah, Tom is rolling his eyes, and not completely unfoundedly so, but also it's not nearly as bad as you might be imagining from the wording that I just used. And because the reboot Mortal Kombat was like, yeah, it got a fair amount of praise, and then it got some criticism. The main thing that people didn't like, fans of the Mortal Kombat franchise, the main thing they didn't like is that they introduced a brand new protagonist character. A character that had never been in any of the Mortal Kombat games in any way, shape, or form, and not in any of the comics or anything like that. They created an entirely new character as the new protagonist, and there were people who didn't like that, even though they tied him into existing Mortal Kombat characters. And then, yes, it was a choice of tone. So rather than being just completely cheesy and hokey, they went for something that was a little bit more serious, a little bit more grounded, had some emotion to it, and that's why it got a fair amount of praise as well, because a lot of people really enjoyed that stuff. They centered it largely around I don't even know what you would call it. It's more than a rivalry. They are outright enemies, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, those characters. A lot of it was centered around that. And then the other major criticism was that the reboot didn't have like an official Mortal Kombat tournament. There was like Shang Tsung was going around and doing his stuff, and Liu Kang was there, but he wasn't really the main character, and there wasn't an official tournament. And so this time with Mortal Kombat 2, it is almost 100% on the established video game characters, the ones that everybody remembers, not the new characters that have been introduced in more recent years in the more recent games. It's the classic characters. It is centered almost entirely on them. The new character of Cole is there, but he is like a background character this time. He is in no way the main character in Mortal Kombat 2. And then it is an official tournament, and it is Shao Kahn, and it is Outworld, and it is the things that everybody remembers from the most popular time of Mortal Kombat. And so it was definitely fan service and reacting to the criticisms that people had in that way. But I feel like they struck a really good tone with this. This movie feels the most like the Mortal Kombat games that any of the Mortal Kombat movies have ever felt. It is the exact same tone as the games, which means that there is this like over-the-top darkness to all of it, and then over-the-top violence. Shots pulled directly from the fatalities in the games, right, with that exact same style. So, I mean, it is very, very, very faithful to the games. other than this is a remix. This is a remix, so it's using all the same familiar characters, but and it is a very familiar story with very familiar story beats from the Mortal Kombat games, but they are remixing it, so it's not a one-for-one retelling of any of the games. They're throwing in a few little curves here and there and updating the characters a little bit here and there. So, and I feel like they struck a really good tone with this. Like, if that's what you wanted, right? Obviously, if you wanted something that's completely its own thing and completely taking a different tack, then that's not what you're going to enjoy. But if you were like, I want to feel like I'm watching a Mortal Kombat game, but with Hollywood level effects and budget and stuff like that, well, then here it is. Now, speaking of the budget, it is very evident watching this movie in 4K that we are on sound stages. When you have grand scenery, that's a green screen, and it is very evident. But they did go for quite a lot of practical effect in this. The characters that are not just normal humans are definitely in makeup and prosthetics. They didn't just CGI all the faces and all of that type of thing. And then as far as the fights and the stunt work goes, it is practical effects. Now, I don't love when wire work is obvious. I prefer that if you're going to use wire work, you do your level best to try and make me believe that the actors didn't have any wires on them, and some people didn't have any wires. That's
what do you mean by obvious, though?
Well, just like
they're thrown across the room or whatever.
Nobody can jump that high. Nobody can physically do that flip they just did. Nobody can fall from that height and not break every bone in their body. They had to be on a wire, and they had to be decelerated, and they had to be hoisted, and they had to be flipped, and there is absolutely no way you could believe that any of that was done for real. They have to be on a wire. Or there's the thing where they do the fancy little flippy spinny thing, and then the camera cuts rather abruptly because you could tell that right after that the stunt person threw their arms and legs outward to stop the spinning, and you had to cut it right at that moment because there's just no way to make that landing, because then they cut to the new shot of when they land and they do their superhero landing, and it's kind of an abrupt cut in there. So there's all of that stuff in there that for me is a personal criticism, but the idea was these actors and stunt people are going to move like the characters move in the game, which is completely unrealistic physics, and nobody can jump and flip that high, but we're going to do that in this movie. And so that's why I say it's the most like just watching the video game, including they just, pull right back on the giant green screen and have what looks like a 2D plane of one person standing on the left and one person standing on the right, and they are going to fight each other. And it looks exactly like the video game. So it's very, very faithful to the entire feeling of the Mortal Kombat video games. And if that's what you want, then that's what this movie delivers. So I watched this on Crave. And Crave does offer 4K, but they do not offer HDR and they do not offer Atmos. And I have to make a comment here because I was watching this in the Dolby Digital Plus 5.1. That's the signal that Crave was feeding me as far as the streaming service goes. But I was using my Dolby Atmos up mixer. And during plenty of the scenes, but one fight in particular, and yes, it is with the character Kung Lao, who has this razor edged hat that he throws, and it magically returns to him like Thor's hammer. And so if you're like,
it's a boomerang.
Gosh, I wonder if that could make for, well, it's Captain America's shield, except it lands on his head instead of on his back. So if you're going, I'm betting you could make an Atmos demo scene out of that. Well, I was listening to it on an up mixer, but I was like, wow, that is an Atmos demo scene. Like, stuff is going all around like an audio object. It is definitely activating in my height channels, even though I was using an up mixer to do it. And so I'm going to recommend, if you're interested in the fully objective technical side of the things, Shane Lee over on his YouTube channel. He did an analysis using his Trinov processor, because Trinov has the thing where you can view the Atmos channels and objects. You can actually get a graphical representation of it. Yeah. And so I found it very interesting because he was like, yep, this is a very immersive, makes full use of Atmos, but most of the movie Mortal Kombat 2 actually utilizes channels, most of it. It uses all 6 overhead channels, if you have 6 overhead speakers, as actual channel encoding. But for that fight scene that I absolutely noticed it, my goodness, were the ping pong ball objects moving all around in that thing. Somebody had a time. Some audio mixer had themselves a time. I feel like a specialist was assigned to that one scene, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be moving those audio objects all over the
your money's worth.
Yes.
You're going to pay me to do one scene, I'm going to move some stuff.
Yeah. So I'm like, if you want it purely as an Atmos demonstration, I will highly recommend Mortal Kombat 2 for that, because you can skip right to that scene. It is very obvious which one it is. And if you want to hear some Atmos stuff moving around, and like I say, even via an up mixer, it was very effective. I was like, I've never really heard my up mixer being that active and moving things around that much via up mixing from a 5.1 signal, which kind of makes you realize, like, do we need the discrete effects? Or it turns out if you encode everything properly and do it well, that the up mixers are pretty darn effective at doing this thing. So yeah, I thought it was a great demonstration on that front. And like I say, I was watching it in 4K, but not in HDR. And I can definitely imagine at this point that there were quite a few things where the HDR would have stood out as well. And again, Shane Lee does talk about that in his review of it. He's like, yep, definitely. There's some things that are very, very dark and shadowy, and you're going to be want to be in a pitch black room with as close to the perfect black levels as you can to see some of the stuff that's going on. But then also some of those flames get blazingly bright, and even in SDR you could tell that was the case. So yeah, I mean, I had fun watching this. It's not meant to be taken seriously, just like the games are not meant to be taken seriously. If you wanted the same tone as the reboot from 4 years ago, well, it's a change. It's a difference. They've gone for a different tone, but it is exactly like the games. So I needed to give a particular shout out to Adeline Rudolph, who is playing Katana in this. Honestly, she's the protagonist of this movie. Much was made about Carl Urban coming in and playing an aged up Johnny Cage, kind of a washed up Johnny Cage, and he does a great job. And so maybe they are co-leads in this. Honestly, Johnny Cage as a character has the most of a character arc. I wouldn't say that Katana really changes into, like, she doesn't really learn and change it. She is biding her time this whole movie, and so there's a plot arc, but not really a character arc for her. But Adeline Rudolph, I thought, was great in this. She's gorgeous. She was a model before and is acting, but also the character of Jade is played by Tati Gabriel, and so somebody in the casting departments for this movie was a fan of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, because both of those actresses had prominent roles in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the show, and it's like, I don't see any way that the casting director for this movie wasn't a fan of that show, because it just seemed interesting that both of those actresses were here in prominent roles in this movie. But I thought both of them did a great job. Josh Lawson is back as Kano, and he is the vast majority of the comedy relief in this movie and does a great job. So it's like everybody clearly had fun in this movie. Maybe Louis Tan, who was the lead character in the reboot of Cole, maybe didn't have quite as good a time, because his role was much, much, much diminished at fan request from the first movie. So maybe he wasn't quite as happy in this movie, but he still got his standout scene and everything like that. So honestly, I give it a thumbs up. It's not a good movie in the sense of, like, is this a fantastic plot? Is this not cheesy? Is this meant to be like high art or anything? Absolutely not. This is 100% a popcorn flick. You were supposed to cheer when Scorpion says, "Get over here." You are supposed to cheer when somebody screams Mortal Kombat. And you were supposed to think like this is the game brought to life, but they've done a little remix on it so that I don't literally know everything that's going to happen moment to moment. And that's what they did. And I thought it was a fun time. I give it a thumbs up. Also, shout out to the change that they made to the character of Baraka in this. That was highly unexpected, but it was entertaining. And so good job all around, I say, on Mortal Kombat 2. Have some fun. Check your brain at the door and enjoy some very much gory violence.
I will tell you that Friday night. Was it Friday night? Friday night, I believe. We finished dinner. And it was like 6 o'clock, which is really early. And we finished dinner, and we had already walked the dogs. We'd already done everything that we needed to do for the day. Maybe it was like 6:30. And I looked over at my wife and I was like, I mean, we don't have anything to do. Maybe we should, and I was going to say, go watch a movie.
Okay.
And she said, we should go to our empty lot that we bulldozed our house off of and mow it. And I was like, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm still sore, by the way, because she likes to do the mowing. So she does the mowing, and I do the edging and there's not much left because there's no driveway anymore because we bulldozed the house and it's just an empty lot now. But I did some weed whacking and did some blowing of things around, and then there was still a big tree out there, and there's a big log I had to try to deal with, which I could not because it's too heavy. But I dealt with most of it, and we got back and it was like 9 p.m. and raining.
Yeah,
she wanted to go to sleep. I was like, no movie.
It's not.
You could have watched a movie. This is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Come to our website, find our shows, our show notes, any links to products or articles that we reference, and a link to a Flickr album so you can follow along with the pictures that people send us when they send us their questions. If you want your question answered in the most detail, we need the most detail. Sometimes we will actually respond to you and say, hey, got any pictures? Or, hey, what did you mean by this? And if you don't want to share, that's fine. It just means that our answers will be more general. If you do, then we can be very specific to you. Facebook.com/AVRant podcast, YouTube.com/AVRant, where those Flickr pictures that I mentioned, the pictures in the Flickr album, will be incorporated into the video. It's just two talking heads. It's us using a service because we are a country apart. I mean, literally. I mean, I think it's like a 3,000-mile drive. If I were to come
multiple time zones in between the two of us, yes.
It's just at the different corners. Yeah. So YouTube.com, I did that. You can contact us directly, rob@avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. Are you doing many socials these days? Is it just Blue Sky?
Yeah, just Blue Sky. It's really just Blue Sky now. Okay. I mean, I technically still have a handle on Threads, and I do post the link when the podcast goes up there, but I have outright deleted my account on X. I have no use for that service anymore, so you won't find me there.
Yeah, I deleted mine as well. Yeah. Not that they got rid of our data. I'm sure they kept that. So don't worry about that, Rob.
Definitely.
They still know you.
So useful to them, I'm sure.
I know at this point, yes. Please. Let's see. That's I guess let's thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and that'll take you to a PayPal donation site. If you want to support us monthly, you can go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast, where you can sign up to be a monthly supporter every month. Patreon will take some amount of money that you specify from you. I think the minimum is $1, and give most of it to us. So we want to thank all of our patrons and all of the people in the past who have sent us money via PayPal.
That's for sure. Yeah. Once again, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 120 patrons over there. And thanks for all the previous PayPal donations and anyone who might donate in the future.
Yeah, I think I forgot to say there was 120 patrons. But yes, we have 120 patrons.
Is true.
If you can't support us financially, that's fine. Just do something to support us. If you do something to support us, let us know what it is so that we can mention you here. Infinite Gary sent in some movie codes for me to test, which I have not had a chance to do yet, but I will do either during or directly after this podcast, depending on how long-winded Rob is.
Code. It's just one code right now, so it won't take forever and ever. But shout out and thanks to Infinite Gary for sending in that Movies Anywhere code.
We also got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Jack, and Jack is a member of our 2 Hour Plus Club. I think the original 2 Hour Plus Club.
That's correct, yeah.
Patrick, Greg, James, and Stefan, thank you very much for thanking us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, those names once again were Jack, Patrick, Greg, James, and Stefan. Thank you very much for the notes of encouragement and gratitude. We really appreciate those. Big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions. And also, thanks to you, Stefan. He included permission for Tom to use the photos that he sent in on avgadgets.com if you would like to.
I'm
yes,
sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's even in bold. How was it missed? Who knows?
I don't know. I just scrolled past it. In the news, after announcing their rather sudden and complete exit from the North American market, Dynaudio made an explicit statement that all, quote, all warranties of existing products in the U.S. market will be honored, end quote, and that any Dynaudio products purchased through authorized dealers, even after they've closed their North American headquarters, will still receive full warranty coverage. So that's good.
Yes.
The only problem is they haven't actually nailed down how warranty service will be carried out.
Little detail.
They haven't named any replacement service centers or confirmed how parts or technical support will reach dealers and customers. They've said that they are, quote, studying, end quote, how to resolve these logistics. Mm-hmm. So if something of yours breaks, hopefully it'll break soon, because it'll take because they'll start off by saying, take it to your local repair person and we'll deal with them. Give them the number. And that'll start. And the first time the repair place will be like, okay, well, all right, I guess we can try this. And then after they get absolutely screwed by Dynaudio by waiting forever for everything and never getting paid or whatever, then they'll stop accepting stuff. So maybe if you want to get a repair done, do it now. Meanwhile, current North American Dynaudio dealers have a couple of options open to them regarding remaining stock. If they want to divest of their inventory, Dynaudio has said they can return what they have to Dynaudio so it can be sold elsewhere. But North American dealers can also place a final order to stock up before the closure is finalized. They also confirmed that import tariffs were a part of the economic challenges and market uncertainty, end quote, that they cited as reasons for their withdrawal from the North American market. But they outright denied that any tensions about Greenland played any role.
Yes.
Are they from Greenland?
They are a Danish company.
I didn't know that.
So Denmark is.
Well, I didn't know they were from Denmark. I forgot that Denmark and Greenland are kind of like a thing.
Yeah, Greenland is represented by Denmark as far as political concerns and all of that are going on. And my goodness, within North America, a certain individual or two have been making some comments about Greenland that haven't gone over so well with the people living in Greenland and the people in Denmark who represent them.
Isn't Bang & Olufsen also from Denmark? Is that not correct?
Yeah, no, I don't know for 100% sure.
Where's Copenhagen?
Copenhagen. Yeah, that's Denmark, isn't it?
Okay, then they're from Denmark, because that's where they sent me.
I'm going to sound really stupid if that's wrong. What?
I just told you that I forget people have cancer all the time. I'm already outing myself as dumb. Don't worry about it. I'll take the heat for this one.
Yeah,
Rob knows
we were right.
things.
Copenhagen isn't Denmark. We're not so far off track that's
okay.
That we're wrong.
So
about
maybe
that
Bang &
one.
Olufsen also pull out of the North American market. Who knows?
Who knows? They seem a little more completely intertwined, and a lot of people buying those ICE amplifiers. So that would be quite the thing. But yes, in any case, it is not for purely political and non-economic reasons. It is economic reasons that they're citing. They made a full-on denial that it is anything to do with outside of market conditions that are causing all of this. But anyway, it still seems like a rather abrupt departure, given that, again, folks are citing that they were at multiple audio trade shows and that showing off brand new products that they said at the time of those trade shows, which we're talking 1 and 2 months ago. We're not talking ages and ages ago, 1 and 2 months ago. And they were saying how that, they're preparing their dealers and these things are coming to North America. Not literally everything that they showed, but the products that were being planned for North America, they said outright that was the case at these trade shows. And then 2 months later, they're like, we're just completely exiting North America altogether. So, still a little bit surprising. Glad that they made it completely explicit that they will honor the warranties, but who knows? Maybe that will require you to ship it to Denmark to have it serviced. We just don't know at this point. It seems unlikely that that'll be the outcome. There are definitely ways that you can go through third parties that physically exist within North America to have servicing done. But it's a little bit up in the air at this point.
So there's another price increase to report. Roku is not immune to the RAM and storage situation, even though they previously boasted about how Roku OS requires less memory than competing platforms, and that gives them an advantage when it comes to their bill of materials for their hardware. My son asked for his 17th birthday. He asked for a computer, and my wife and I just laughed at him. No.
I mean, honestly, the best way to go is pre-built now, because if you're trying to build your own, well, I can do a little aside since we're talking about it right now. Literally a year ago, almost to the to the day, to the month, I bought a 22 terabyte external hard drive just for backup purposes, right? Every once in a while, I like to back up a whole bunch of data. I'm like, I'm going to buy a big old hard drive. And it was actually a sale. That was why I purchased it at the time that I did. So yeah, that was 2025. That was the date of the invoice that I looked up. And so this is Canadian dollars, of course, but for a 22 terabyte external, just regular 3.5 inch spinning hard drive, nothing special, and a Seagate that isn't, particularly high rated, but I'm like, I just need a lot of terabytes for the lowest price. It's for backup purposes, so that's all I cared about. And I paid $360 plus tax for the 22 terabyte drive. Which was a good price because most of them were priced around $4.25 Canadian. That was kind of the going price at the time, and so this was on sale, $360. So today I looked up. I don't need it by any means, but I was a little bit curious, and I can always use more hard drives. So I looked up what the price for another 22 terabyte external, like Seagate or Western Digital or whatever. And first of all, 22 terabytes seems to be gone entirely. You got to get 24 or sometimes 26, whatever. That was fine, but it was like $1,100 for a 24 terabyte. Yeah. Again, these are Canadian dollars, but I'm like, that is a substantial percentage increase on the price of a spinning external, not particularly high-rated hard drive. That is nuts. So yes, if you are trying to build your own PC from components that you're purchasing individually at retail, then you're better off just getting a pre-build for sure at this point. Yeah.
So anyways, we're talking about Roku.
Back to Roku.
Roku streaming stick goes from $30 to $40. Streaming stick plus goes from $40 to $60. Streaming sticks. Oh, this is how much the price increase is.
These are the price increases.
Streaming stick 4K goes from $50 to $80. Mm-hmm. That's an increase. Mm-hmm. Roku Ultra goes from $100 to $150, and the Stream Bar also goes from $100 to $150. The prices are in effect immediately on new stock, but existing stock at some retailers is, at least for the moment, still available at the old prices. So if you're a Roku fan, now's your time.
I guess
the problem with prices is that they don't go back down.
They sure don't.
And I'm a little irritated by the fact that we're hopefully at some point the market will get flooded with storage that nobody needs anymore because data centers are getting shut down, but we'll see.
That's going to be the thing. I mean, there is the whole thing of like stuff is being purchased that isn't actually ever being manufactured and it was never going to be manufactured, but they agreed to a bill of sale anyway, which they then reinvested back into the company that just bought the memory, and there's all of that wonderful circular financing that's going on out there so that everyone can claim that when I paid you $20 to dig a hole and you paid me $20 to fill the hole back up, that somehow both of us made $20. But yeah, that seems to be what's going on genuinely with the memory stuff right now. But if somehow it all comes crashing back down, yes, there might be just an absolute plethora of RAM and memory on the market one day. One can hope.
Snatch it up.
But not right now. And the rather small amount of storage and RAM that's going into Roku devices is still going up in price so much that Roku just cannot
50%
absorb.
Increase. Yeah,
can't absorb.
So a roadblock has interrupted Paramount Skydance's acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery. Paramount Skydance has told investors that their target date to close on the acquisition was September, and to motivate Warner Brothers Discovery stockholders to accept their bid. The Paramount Skydance agreed to pay an additional 25 cents per share for every quarter beyond September 30th, 2026, that the deal is not fully finalized. That works out to be an additional $650 million per quarter above their original bid. I don't understand this. So they agree to pay more if it takes longer?
Yeah, that's right. So like Netflix made a bid to buy just Warner Brothers. They were going to split Warner Brothers and Discovery, not back into what they used to be prior to when Warner Brothers and Discovery merged together. They were going to saddle the new Discovery with the lion's share of the debt, take all of the cable channels that they want nothing to do with, and Netflix absolutely wants nothing to do with, and saddle Discovery with all of that, and then take HBO and the movie studio and the TV studio and the couple of handful of cable channels that are not necessarily making profit, but aren't like just completely saddled with debt. All of that was going to become the new Warner Brothers, and Netflix was going to buy that. And the Warner Brothers Discovery, because they are still one company right now, the Warner Brothers Discovery investors agreed to sell to Netflix under those conditions. Shed off the horrible amount of debt. Warner Brothers was still going to have a fair amount of debt, but considerably less, with Discovery taking it all. And then they were going to sell themselves to Netflix, and that was agreed to. That was a memorandum of understanding that was signed and everything like that. But Paramount Skydance, after the Skydance purchased Paramount, because everybody's merging together. But Paramount Skydance, they made a hostile bid, hostile takeover offer, going directly to the shareholders, bypassing the Warner Brothers executives and taking their bid directly to the shareholders and saying, hey, we will pay more than Netflix was going to pay, and we will take all of it. We'll take the whole kit and caboodle, no needing to split up Warner Brothers Discovery into two separate companies. We'll just take all of it, because part of it is they wanted CNN. They wanted CNN to be included in this deal. Netflix had absolutely no interest in CNN. And so Paramount Skydance came in with this offer, and to entice the shareholders to pay the cancellation penalty to Netflix, because that was part of that memorandum of understanding, is that if they backed out of the deal, they would have to just give Netflix some money for nothing for having backed out of the deal, in order to get the shareholders to agree to that penalty, which Paramount Skydance said they would finance paying that penalty. Part of the deal was, not only will we take all of it, including all the debt, not only will we pay you more than Netflix was going to pay per share, we will also guarantee that if we haven't closed this deal, gone through all the regulatory approvals and everything like that, and closed on this deal by September 30th, 2026, then for every quarter beyond September 30th that it takes to get this deal finalized, we'll pay a 25 cents per share more every quarter that the delay goes on beyond September 30th, 2026. Netflix had no such provisions in their original agreement for anything like that as far as closing goes, because that could have been stopped at regulatory phases as well. Maybe regulators would have said Netflix isn't allowed to buy Warner Brothers, or maybe they would have said that the splitting up and the division of the debt wasn't allowed for whatever legal reasons, and all of that could have been delayed too, but there were no such provisions in that original agreement. So yes, that's where this is coming in. Basically, Paramount Skydance is just money is going out of their coffers, and they are taking on more and more debt themselves to continue financing all of this venture.
Right. So, like you said, it works out to be an additional $650 million per quarter above their original bid that they made, which was probably
already a gigantic bid. Yeah.
So Paramount Skydance are on the clock, but 12 state attorney generals and the Writers Guild of America
attorneys general. We got to get that plural correct. Yes.
Did I not say that?
That's where it comes, yeah.
Or did I say
it's like runners up. It's not runner-ups. It's runners up. It's attorneys general.
All right. And the Writers Guild of America first secured a temporary injunction that was scheduled to be reviewed on August 3rd to block the merger based on the argument that it would reduce competition and folate antitrust.
Violate. I don't know where folate came from. That's a fun spell
That's what
correct.
It says.
It's supposed to be violate.
Violate antitrust law. But now that has been dropped because a new court agreement based on the Clayton Act argument has been brought into effect. Well, this is very exciting stuff, by the way. I'm on the edge of my seat.
It's legal stuff. But
Paramount Skydance will not be able to close on the deal until after a ruling has been filed. So, or on June 1st, 2027, whichever comes first. So they are prohibited from taking any steps to integrate or consolidate whatsoever with Warner Brothers Discovery before that time. So they can't do anything until June 1st.
And I'm like,
2027.
I don't know if there's actually going to be any enforcement or oversight of that, because it much like trading a player in sports, where technically there are rules that say you're not supposed to have any contact with that player or their agent prior to the team that they're on right now agreeing to the trade. There's rules like that goes on, but of course those rules are shirked all the time. Right. And in business mergers, again, it's just the idea of, we're going to start preparing for, essentially we're going to figure out who we're going to fire ahead of time. Well, they're not supposed to do any of that. That's all against the rules. That's completely prohibited. But I don't know what prohibited actually means legally these days, particularly in, let's say, a country to the south of my country. I don't know what prohibitions and legal ramifications there could possibly be, but according to the letter of the law, they're not allowed to do a thing. They can't even start planning it. until June.
So should the case take the entire amount of time until June 2027, it will cost Paramount Skydance an additional $1.7 billion above their original bid. Can they back out of this? I mean, I
don't know. I still don't think they're going to. It seems as though the Ellisons are just absolutely hell-bent on acquiring Warner Brothers Discovery. I don't really see the financial reason behind it. I mean, I still always enjoy listening to Nilay Patel over at The Verge and on the Vergecast, because he's just like, Warner Brothers is a poison pill. Like let's just look at the history of all the companies that have acquired Warner Brothers, and it has not worked out for a single one of them. It has never gone well. So he's like, he likes to just completely like abstract it all down. He's like, AT&T, by the end of AT&T owning Warner Brothers, the only thing they really had to show for it was a black and white 4:3 aspect ratio version of the Justice League. He's like, that's the thing you can point to that AT&T did with Warner Brothers. Like, that's it. You got Zack Snyder's black and white Justice League in 4:3 on a streaming service. That made no sense. And that's the one thing we can point to that actually came out of the AT&T days of owning Warner Brothers. But so I don't know. I don't, just on a purely personal level, I don't particularly want Paramount Skydance to own Warner Brothers Discovery. But you know what? Maybe I'm being charitable, because I think for their own good, this isn't going to be a very good financial deal. But regardless, this has already cost Paramount Skydance a substantial amount of money. They had to pay that breakup fee with Netflix. That is just money out of their coffers to do that. There have been, all kinds of legal fees that they've already had to pay, so they are out that money regardless. There's no getting that money back. So I don't know if they're going to just fall into the sunk cost fallacy at this point, or why they were so incredibly hell-bent on making this acquisition, because I mean that hostile bid was not a cheap endeavor for them to partake in. So and I mean, Netflix has way more money than Paramount Skydance. They could have outbid them if they wanted to, but Netflix was like, meh, whatever, we'll just take our cancellation fee. We'll eventually buy someone else. That's pretty much the way I feel about Netflix. So, there you go.
Comments from listeners. Jack got a chuckle when he heard us go through the copy and paste list of AI prompts that James sent us in order to get more useful responses when it comes to technical subjects. But he wasn't chuckling because he thought the list was too long. No. He was chuckling because he was thinking to himself, that's nothing. I actually got this email while I was walking with my wife and read it to her, because that's how fun this email was. By the way, Jack, yes. I was walking with my wife, sweat dripping down my face because it's 1,000,000 degrees out here, and I was like, "Oh, you got to hear this." So at his job, they now have a 17-page document that they routinely copy and paste into Microsoft Copilot prior to prompting it for anything else. And as we correctly pointed out, it still doesn't give deterministic responses, even after all that. The thing is, it is useful, but there's definitely a misrepresentation and a lot of misunderstanding. We do not have the Star Trek computer yet, that's for sure. So that's the... People who cannot do a thing are very impressed with how AI does the thing for them. Okay. If you've ever heard a mechanic or a person who's good at a thing complain about people, like customers who want them to do a bad job, this is what's happening here. Like you go into your mechanic, and my wife does stuff like this all the time. Well, I don't need it to be perfect. I just need it to be good enough to work.
Functional, sure.
Yes. And and the person who's making the thing or working on the thing, it's like, how do you do it bad? Like how do I do it so it's bad enough for you, because you're trying to save money, basically, is what you're saying.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. But the reality is, it's harder to do a bad job, and it takes longer. And like a lot of times in the bike industry, the juggling or the balancing act that we're in is like, how much time am I going to save by putting a new part on here versus how much does that new part cost? And a lot of times a new part is so much easier, so fast, that even if the part costs a considerable amount of money, trying to make your old part work is it would take it will never work, number one, and correctly.
Correct.
And two, I will spend hours doing it.
Yeah,
and
actually
therefore,
and that's you talking about something that like actual mechanical physical that you're working with. I mean, you get into software and say like, just build me cheap, fast, kind of gets the job done adequately software versus let's make some actual reliable software. Like it's probably better to just make the actual reliable software.
Yeah. So yes, we are far, far away. So it just, it's hard to get people to understand, when they're like, well, it's good enough for me. It's good enough for what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep using it. My wife had to send a headshot into somebody recently for a presentation she's giving. And the headshot she has that's current is very poorly taken. The lighting's terrible and she doesn't look very good in it. So she has an older headshot and she just told AI, because I've never seen her use AI before. It's literally the first time, to merge them. And my son and I looked at it and went, it definitely looks AI. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. I mean, you can glance at this and see AI. She's like, really? I don't, how do you guys know? I'm like, you just tell, like, everything about it is AI. And it doesn't even, like, it looks kind of like you, but if I saw this picture and I saw you, I'd be like, that's not the same person. And, to her, it was like, well, it's good enough for this headshot. And I'm like, is it really? I don't think it is. But, whatever. So that's
if you're wondering why the AI data centers need so much RAM,
this is
so much memory, it's like is a 17-page document of prompts, pre-prompts, really, right?
Pre-prompts.
Instructions prior to the prompt for the thing that you're actually trying to accomplish. Pre-prompts, that a 17-page document that you're putting in there nigh every time that you're actually doing a regular prompt. And then undoubtedly one of the prompts within that 17-page document is, like, remember all of these instructions throughout our entire conversation, keep track of all changes that are made, maybe asking it to spit out a change log document as part of it, because that's usually part of the process and things like that. So yeah, all of that just has to be stored in RAM continuously throughout that entire session, or it's going to lose track. So this is why you need terabytes of RAM to have a conversation with your AI, and everybody's doing it. So yes, turns out Roku can't get a stick of RAM to save their life at this point, because this is what we're... I mean, wouldn't it be better if you didn't have to copy and paste a 17-page document of pre-prompts to make this thing actually, like, truly genuinely useful to you? Can we do a little bit more development on this tool before we deploy it at this scale, please? I don't know.
All right. Patrick eagerly skipped to the end of last week's episode when he spotted his name and saw we had answered his question about the mysterious thud sound that had recently started coming from all of his speakers, maybe 3 or 4 times per hour. Turns out, right at the same time when these random thuds started happening, well, that was right when they had just moved the location of a drink refrigerator to an upstairs outlet that's adjacent to the theater. So they didn't really plan to move that fridge again and probably won't pay an electrician to do anything about it. It's literally just drinks in there. So he figures he'll just unplug the fridge whenever he watches a movie in the theater.
Hooray!
I guess that's a solution.
It is a solution. It's a very inexpensive
That's the most
solution.
AI solution I've ever heard a human come up with.
I don't know about that.
Because it's like, I'm not going to fix the problem. I'm just going to hide it.
I mean, as long as someone suggested it on Reddit, and then AI will give you that suggestion for sure.
That's for sure, yeah.
But
I love it when people tell you that, you got that from Reddit. I'm like, where do you think AI got it from?
Yes, indeed. Not Wikipedia, because they're actively blocking themselves getting scraped, and they are dying financially because of it. But I donate to Wikipedia because I'd rather have that thing stick around. But yes, no, I'm glad it is, that simple, and I'm glad we were on the right track. Seems like our speculation was on the right track.
So. Literally said refrigerator, I thought.
That's right.
Anyways, Dan heard Adriano's question when he was asking for a friend if there's something less expensive than the HD Fury Vivrum. Whatever.
VRR.
Yeah, whatever. That can switch between multiple HDMI sources, output to 2 different displays, but then also provide a dedicated eARC output, audio output to feed a Sonos soundbar. Dan lives in Europe, and the company FeinTech, Fein Tech, offers their AX341 HDMI 2.1 matrix switch that can do exactly what Adriano's friend needs for €200,
which is less than slightly less than half the price of the HD Fury Vroom. Yeah,
there you go. Problem is, as far as you're aware, FeinTech does not offer shipping to Australia, where Adriano's friend lives, but perhaps you can look into this specific brand and model number on his own to see if there's a way to get it at a reasonable price. Yeah, shipping to Australia sucks, and that was before tariffs. Yeah,
yeah, and then if ultimately, not because of the purchase price of the item, but because of the shipping and import, it's not out of the question. It ends up just as expensive as the HD Fury Vroom. But that is a bit of the issue. And it's not like this is dirt cheap, right? €200 is not dirt cheap, but it is less expensive. I was not aware of this product because they don't sell this in North America either, like just regularly. It seems as though it's quite possible to import it to the United States, but at an additional price. But all of the prices are in euro. There's even a little bit of an issue getting into the UK right now because, of course, UK is no longer part of the European Union, and it seems like they are pretty much dedicated to the European Union at this time. But I was happy to learn about this. This is one of those ones I'm going to try and keep in my back pocket to think about because I liked some of the solutions that they had on offer there at, reasonable, not cheap, but reasonable prices. So good to know about them, and I'm happy that Dan mentioned that.
Put it in the back pocket.
Yeah.
Questions. Martin is back after we suggested that Klipsch reference Premier 2 speakers might be the right solution for his 20-foot by 29-foot basement space in Canada. He admits the forum opinions got to him in the past and he really wasn't considering Klipsch at all before we suggested them. But after we did, he looked up reviews of the reference Premier 2 series in particular, and they do look pretty good, both in terms of measurements and aesthetics. I don't know which reviews you were looking at, but I would trust us over most reviews. So they're definitely available for him to purchase.
When someone's doing Klipsch measurements on them, that's pretty
That's fine. But yes. I'm user reviews mean nothing to me.
Oh, no. I mean, he was looking up things
like
with
I
proper.
said, I didn't know what reviews he was looking at.
Yeah, proper measurements, and you're like, oh, that's a pretty linear frequency response. I'm not seeing anything wild and crazy in the frequency response of that reference Premier 2 speaker from Klipsch. Yeah.
So they are definitely available for him to purchase, but in terms of hearing them for himself before he buys them, he'd need to make a trip to a bigger city. So some letter or number. This is his first question. So he should still do that, right? Not just buy them sight unseen. Although if he went with Arundel, he'd be taking a gamble on those without hearing them first. But Arundel includes shipping costs in their price, and they are set up to handle online returns precisely because they know many people want to try in-home auditions before committing to the purchase. What do we think? Well, the largest tower and center models from the Klipsch reference Premier 2 series look too imposing in his basement room. Okay,
and we have a picture. We have an image to share.
We have an image to show. Room. This is a very nice looking theater, by the way. And look at that white panel on the ceiling just blending in like it belongs up there. I am happy with that. That makes me happy. Upward firing modules, less so, but whatever. Yeah, so let's talk about this.
Yes.
Should you or could you or would we recommend that you buy speakers unheard, sight unseen?
Not 11 of them.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So there's one thing I'm not worried about and one thing I am worried about. Okay. So number one, if we recommend speakers and we say this is the right output for your space, these speakers are neutral sounding and they will present the audio as is, and they have the right dispersion characteristics for your seating and everything else. Sonically, that's what I need to hear. Like, I'm okay with buying a speaker unheard based on reviews. If the reviews are telling me or the advice that I'm getting from people I trust are telling me that the sonic characteristics of the speaker and the dispersion characteristics will work in my space, I'm okay with that. Mostly because I have so much experience now with speakers and listening to different speakers that I know that the differences that I might notice in my space or in any space between different speakers that are recommended by somebody like Rob and myself are so minimal as to be unnoticeable without very quick A to B measurements. But that's the thing I'm not worried about. The thing I am worried about is literally every other characteristic of the speaker, including size, footprint, finish, aesthetics, all the other things that come into play here. So what Rob is going to suggest, and I'm going to agree with, is that you would get your front two speakers and then decide from there. And that is a good recommendation because you get the physical speaker in the space. You're minimizing the amount of return cost that there's going to be. And in your case, the return cost is maybe just driving to your nearest Best Buy or the nearest place where you can get them, having ordered them and picking them up yourself and bringing them home. Or in vice versa, you have them delivered, but then you have to return them physically yourself, which is gas and time and everything else. You're minimizing that. But once you've done that and you've decided that you like the speakers and the size and the sound and everything else, I have no problems ordering the rest of it without having heard it.
Because I want to address the because we're going to be talking a little bit more about the actual auditioning and the sound and all of that in the second question coming up. So I want to address that right this moment. But he was asking, like, we've got this image of his basement theater. I really like it. I like the aesthetics that you've done here. And he's like, would getting the largest of the tower models and the largest center speaker model that they have just physically look strange in this space. So first of all, I'm going to suggest that they are in that Reference Premiere 2 series. They have their 504 center speaker. And I do still think that's the right choice here. It is definitely considerably physically larger than the XTZ center that you're using right now, but primarily in how wide it is from left to right. In terms of the height that it is, and it is also considerably deeper, much deeper front to back.
Looks like he has his on a stand.
But you've got it on a stand in a black-backed setting. It looks like he's got an acoustic panel right behind his XTZ, but just black. And then, of course, the television screen itself, it looks black. So if you go for the black finish, which is not, thankfully, it's not a bright, glossy piano black finish on the Reference Premiere 2 series. It's a little bit, it's not completely matte, but it's kind of satiny. If you go for the black finish on there, like, with the lights on, you're going to be able to see that it's a physically much larger center speaker, but I don't think it's going to be any kind of visual distraction. It's going to blend into the black panel that you have behind your current center speaker. Yes, the depth is going to be a factor, but you can have the depth, like, because you have that panel behind your center speaker, you don't need more than, like, literally an inch of clearance to the ports that are on the back there. You don't actually need any more than that. So physically, I don't think the center speaker is going to be any kind of an issue. I am going to say, like he mentioned outright in his email, do I need to get the largest of the tower speakers? And I'm going to say no, because they have the 8,000 model number towers, which there is no equivalent center or matching bookshelf speakers to the 8,000. The 8,000 is the flagship tower model, and it is aimed at the 2-channel crowd, who is just like, I don't want a subwoofer, I don't want any other speakers, I want a full range, gigantic tower speaker. And I would say, because he has some equipment in that front right corner that he needs to be able to access behind the speaker, I'm going to be like, the 8,000, that might be pushing it. That might be a little bit too big to go in here. But it's the 6,000 tower, one rung down, that perfectly matches that 504 center and has the exact same woofer as the bookshelf model if you get the larger bookshelf. I'm like, the 6,000 tower is the one you want to look at. And I mean, I don't think you're going to have a complaint because that brings the price down a bit. It's more manageable in terms of size. That would be the appropriate choice here. So, I mean, that to me is an easy clarification to make, that you don't literally go for the very largest, because the 8,000 is kind of its own thing. It's meant for the dedicated 2-channel crowd. In terms of, should you hear these in person? Like, before you buy 11 of them, I think you should hear them in person, for sure. I wouldn't want to buy and then maybe end up returning 11 speakers. Normally, if you're having them shipped into you, I like to say, like, he was definitely going to get bookshelf speakers to serve as his surrounds. So I was like, My normal advice is get the bookshelf speaker, because that is obviously the easiest to just physically pack back up and return if you do end up returning them. But in this case, I'm like, because a big factor here was I want to hear that lower mid-range upper bass does get filled in the way I'm noticing it's missing right now with the XTZ speakers. Like, because that's a big part of it, I don't know that the bookshelf speaker is going to deliver all of that to you, and your intention is not to use the bookshelf speaker as your front speakers, where that's going to be the most noticeable. So I am tempted to say, like, even though the cost would be higher if you do end up doing a return, that, yeah, either go for the Paro towers, the 6,000 towers, or maybe just get the center. Maybe try just getting the center and have one speaker that you're potentially going to return. I don't think you're going to, honestly, but potentially. You're limiting it. I, in a way, think that's superior versus going to a showroom and hearing the setup there, because you are actually going to hear it in your setting, and you're going to be able to determine whether it solves the major issue that made you want to upgrade your XTZ speakers in the first place. If you're in a dealer showroom, you might not be able to get the very thing, the very experience you're looking for the most to determine whether you want to keep those speakers or not.
Yeah. So the measurements and opinions written in the reviews he looked up do indicate that the Klipsch Reference Premier 2 speakers can be a touch on the bright side, and there are forum folks that who completely dismiss them because of that. So let me give you a little insight into reviews right here, okay? You never want to be just overly glowing about anything. Like, you could be totally glowing, but you have to have something negative to say.
Yeah.
You have to.
There's got to be something in that cons column, right? There's the pros column and the cons column, and you got to put something in the cons column.
You got to put something in the cons column. The thing is if a speaker or a company is already known for a thing, if they've already been sort of labeled that thing, and from a review standpoint, there's no risk in saying that they are that thing, even if they are not. I'm not saying that they're not. Okay, I'm not saying that these don't have a little bit of an upturn on the treble. A lot of speakers do. A lot of speakers try to, at least, because the performance tends to drop up top, anyways. So if the reviews are saying, "Oh, it's a little bit tipped up in the treble," I would take that with a humongous grain of salt. And if it's not like and the measurements aren't really showing it, or aren't showing it to be a significant amount of tip up, then what they're really saying is, I want you to like my review, and therefore here's a negative that has low risk for me.
Yeah, if you look at the Klipsch measurements of the Reference Premier 2, and actually I think I forget exactly which model it was, but I mean, they are actually, thankfully, very consistent across their models as far as this goes. When there's the transition from the mid-range into the treble where the tweeter is completely taking over, in the on-axis measurement, you can see that it's almost a bit of a reverse of the typical estimated in-room. This is the anechoic on-axis response only. The tweeter kind of goes up about 1 decibel per octave upward. And yes, that is, objectively speaking, brighter than neutral. It is. I'm not going to make any bones about it. That's what it is. It is not a completely flat line. There is a very slight rise once you get to where the tweeter takes over, but it's about 1 decibel per octave. And then, actually, we can finish off the rest of the question, because, that's what gets addressed in those Klipsch measurements there.
But it was mentioned that the somewhat bright response can be adjusted via toe-in, and we said we might apply a bit of EQ. So compared to his XTZ speakers, what is he in for here? When he auditions them in person, what measurements should he try so he's giving them a fair shake? First of all, I would not be measuring things. You're going to drive yourself nuts.
But he was thinking, like, should it, like, if he does go to a showroom, should he be requesting to try different toe-in angles? Should he be requesting to try applying some EQ?
Let them in a showroom. There's so many variables you have absolutely no control over that. At this point, what you could do dead on versus not, and then listen, see if you can tell a difference in the treble in that respect. That would maybe be it for me. Everything else I would not worry about, because you can't control the acoustic properties of the room. You can't control how far away you're sitting. You can't control what EQ they've applied and not told you about.
And goodness, does bass response skew your subjective opinion of a speaker in ways that it doesn't matter how aware or beforehand you are of it, your brain just can't help itself. You can be
a professional in this industry for 20 plus years and sit in a room with a speaker that has more bass than another speaker and go, I kind of like that one better. Even though both these speakers are going to be crossed over into subwoofers and the bass isn't going to make a bit of difference.
Or a speaker that is literally ruler flat linear on-axis response anechoically. You listen to it, but it rolls off. It starts to roll off higher than another speaker. And you're like, nah, that was kind of bright. It's like, even though objectively it's completely ruler flat. So yes, like I was saying, the objective measurements, which I do put a tremendous amount of faith in for the people that did them via Klipsch, or just regular, anechoic measurements and things like that have been taken. It's like, objectively speaking, they are slightly brighter than completely neutral. But those same Klipsch measurements point out that when they do the listening window calculation, which is not just the bang on axis response, it's also including, basically degrees out to plus minus 15, left, right, up, down. And so that listening window, when they put that, it's like, that is a remarkably linear line. It is very, very, very linear, which is one of the reasons why I'm a pretty darn big fan of the Reference Premiere 2 series. I feel like, because you can look at some other Klipsch speakers, including present-day speakers, that you don't even just have to go back to the older models, like present-day speakers from other series that Klipsch still sells. And when you talk about a bright speaker, you look at those measurements, you're like, whoa, what is going on with that tweeter? Or what is going on with the tweeter to mid-range transition? Like, you see some funky stuff in some other Klipsch speakers. The Reference Premiere 2, while objectively not literally on-axis anechoically linear, it is so mild that, first of all, if you just get a little bit off axis from, like, that tweeter is aimed directly at my ear, if you just toe them out slightly or toe them more heavily in to do a cross-firing type of thing, if you just get a bit off axis and you're within the listening window as opposed to bang 0 degree on axis, all of a sudden it's very, very linear response, anechoically speaking. And then, yes, if you personally go, it still sounds a little bit bright to me, it's like, a tiny bit of EQ. It's like, I can absolutely take that. So what are you in for? I would expect that if you bring the, say, 6,000 Towers into your house and do the audition there, that you will notice a difference from them between. I mean, like, if you don't notice any difference, why would you even bother buying any speakers and changing out your XTZs? I would expect you're going to hear a difference. I think you're definitely going to hear a difference in that region that is currently missing in the upper bass and lower mid range. You're definitely going to hear that. And I think you will hear a difference in the treble. I do think you will. Having that horn loaded tweeter does have a slightly distinct and characteristic sound to it. And I think you will be able to hear it. I can hear it. I am confident that even in a blind comparison, I would be able to tell those two speakers apart, accounting for other variables, but it's not going to be some kind of, oh my gosh, my ears are bleeding, it's so harsh and bright. It's like, if you get anything even remotely close to that, toe them out a bit, apply a little bit of EQ, you can absolutely get these speakers under control.
Michael. As a reminder, Michael is visually impaired and he's getting back into home theater after being out of the game for a number of years. We recently advised him that we are totally on board with him sticking with an Amazon Fire-based television, since he personally finds that interface easiest to deal with, and we recommend a combo of Denon X 1800H receiver with a Paradigm Monitor SC Series 5-speaker package, along with a Tone Winner sub. He has some further questions. All right. I vaguely remember this. Yes. He had some research. He did some research, and he likes the feature set of the Denon X 1800H. We also said we think it's accessibility features via its web-based interface and apps are probably his best options. But he was also reading how Denon is actually owned by Samsung now. Mm-hmm. And in his mind, when it comes to audio and Samsung, he just pictures their old home theater in a box solutions that he was never impressed with. That's okay. That's why they bought them. He thought highly of Denon in the past, but is the 1800H just some cut rate Samsung tech on the inside now? He has plans to visit EQ Audio Video in person to audition speakers before he commits to a purchase, and he figured he'd audition their Yamaha AV receiver offerings while he's there. What do you think of the whole receiver situation for him? I mean, I know that people love to make causal claims based on things that coincide, right? At some point, Jeep, which has always had reliability issues, got bought by Ford, if I remember correctly.
No, isn't it Stellantis? I thought Jeep is owned by Stellantis, which is Chrysler. I think that's how that goes.
Or maybe I'm thinking of Jaguar or whatever was bought by Ford. Anyways, companies buy other companies all the time. And yes, sometimes what happens with those companies is they start sharing technology or whatever. I don't necessarily think that that just because one company decides to own another company or buys another company that they're going to ruin it immediately. And if we recommend Denon, and I have seen no evidence that Denon quality has dipped in any way, shape, or form over its many acquisitions in the last 5 years, 10 years,
including making some acquisitions of their own.
That's right. If anything, I've seen Denon stay very, very consistent. Other brands have come and gone in our recommendations. Yamaha, Onkyo, they come and go. But Denon and Marantz kind of just stays. They're always in there somewhere.
Doesn't mean they always will, but up till now. Yeah.
Up till now, we have not seen any evidence that their quality has dipped. So, if you're going to try I think you should try a Yamaha receiver.
Yeah. If you're there, especially because accessibility features is a big factor in this purchase. Definitely give it a try and be like, oh, turns out that the accessibility features via the app or the web interface, I prefer this one over this one. Like that is all the rationale you need to make your decision, including if you're just like, oh yeah, turns out I find the Denon easier to use via its accessibility features over the Yamaha. But even if the parts quality had deteriorated or something, I'd be like, that's still the most important factor is the accessibility for you. So I'm all on board for you giving it a try while you're auditioning other things anyway, if it's already in the store where you're going. No problem with that. But I think you'll ultimately end up with the X1800H. Let me assuage your fears. The X1800H was developed and designed and built before Denon got purchased by Harman. Harman was themselves purchased prior by Samsung. So Harman is now a Samsung company, and now that Harman has purchased all of Sound United, of which Denon is a part. So there's that whole thing. Denon, and it was Sound United. Sound United was purchased by Massimo, but Massimo wanted to get rid of it, and they found Harman as a buyer, but Harman is part of Samsung. So yes, things are all nested within each other. And thankfully, Samsung really has allowed, at least up to this point, things could change in the future. We don't know. But Samsung has up to this point allowed Harman to continue in their Harman ways. And they haven't really interfered there or started just turning every Harman product into a Samsung Electronics product. They definitely haven't done that. Harman so far has not interfered with the Sound United brands and has allowed them to continue on their way. Again, that could all change. We don't know. But up until now, and the X1800H in particular was all designed and made prior to all of this taking place. Right. So if that's the one you get, you don't even if you can't get past the worry that somehow Samsung is going to ruin them, they didn't ruin that one. The X1800H is, I guarantee you, it hasn't been ruined by anybody.
The receiver you buy today was designed 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, this is why.
And we're up to the 1900 now, so the 1800 was before that. It's like 6 years ago that thing. Yeah.
So when you are. You see these companies that are coming out with processors or whatever, and you're including companies like Imativa, which have some resources, not compared to like Harman and Samsung and stuff, but they have some resources. Their feature set is so far behind, and it takes them by the time they get everything caught up, it's now old again. So in order for a company like Denon or Yamaha or Onkyo to have a feature set that's current in their current receivers, they have been working on this for a while. So the next couple of years of Denon products are, I think, they're already in the pipeline. It's too late for Samsung to go in and do anything to them.
But I would say
though I don't have a problem with Samsung. I'm just taking it from your perspective.
Prior to your in-person visit to EQ Audio Video, since you've planned that and that's coming up, go ahead and on your phone, download the Denon Remote app. download the Odyssey Editor app, and go ahead and download the Yamaha MusicCast app as well. Have those apps already on your phone, ready to go, and then hopefully you'll be able to connect to the AV receivers that you're testing and be able to sample the accessibility features that way, since that's a major factor. And if you end up going, you know what, I like the Yamaha interface better, but forget everything I said and go with that one. That is by far the most important thing for you to do.
I would also call them and let them know that this is what you're wanting to do because of that, because this is not a common request.
Yeah, it's not everybody who comes in does that. Yeah,
because you have to be on their network, and you have to have some other stuff. They may say, "Oh, we're not going to give you access to it, but we will provide you with we
got a tablet that you can use to try.
Let us get all that stuff loaded up. What programs do you need loaded up on here in order for that to work?" So I would make sure I gave him a call beforehand, or you're going to maybe find out that you have to come back later to do it again. Do that part of it. So as mentioned, he's going to audition some speakers in person. He used to have PSB speakers, which he loved, and EQ Audio Video sells PSB, so he's going to compare those against the Paradigm monitor speakers. He can admit he's going in with some bias. They also sell Angstrom and Triangle Borea speakers, series speakers. He plans to listen to them at all. Do we have any opinions on either of those? It doesn't matter what our opinions are. Let's just start there. You're going to be listening to them, and you're going to be listening to them in not your room. So you're really you're going to be hearing a lot of stuff that you may or may not hear, even with the PSB and the Paradigm speakers. You're going to be hearing stuff with those speakers that you will not, or will be stronger or weaker or whatever affected by your room.
Again, so, that bass response can make such a difference, and the likelihood that the bass response in the showroom is going to be identical to your bass response at home is very small usually, and that can make not just in terms of how the bass sounds, in terms of how the mid-range and the treble subjectively sounds, the way the bass sounds in the room, in that particular room, makes such a difference, and our brains cannot ignore it. So
a lot of these places too are just not set up for you to listen to speakers with to AB speakers, number one, and two, to be able to listen to speakers with a subwoofer or without a subwoofer and that sort of thing.
But I will certainly say, like, if somebody came to me and they said, you know what, I just like these PSB speakers a bit more than these Paradigm speakers, I'm like, that's A-okay by me. I got no problem with that. For whatever reason, I slightly prefer their looks. I'm like, absolutely, completely great reason for you to do that. I wouldn't
expect there to be a huge sonic difference between PSB
and Paradigm. Yeah, not a huge sonic difference. Angstrom, I know nothing about. I didn't know that brand at all. I didn't even know of their existence, so I can offer you no personal takes on Angstrom. That please inform us if something really stands out about them. Let me know, because I didn't know anything about them. Now, Triangle Borea speakers, I have heard those. Look, I didn't hear them in my house. I didn't install them. They're a pretty popular brand in a lot of custom installs. Are the Triangle speakers? From the ones I heard, I thought those sounded a bit bright, more so than Klipsch Reference Premiere 2. That was my initial impression. I'm listening to those Triangle speakers. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm hearing all the etched detail in the treble, because those speakers to me sounded kind of bright. But I mean, look, I wasn't going in there to listen to those speakers in particular. I didn't spend a healthy amount of time with them. I didn't make any adjustments to them. So who knows what the showroom where I heard them was doing with those speakers. But that was just my initial impression. But don't let that color your subjective opinion too much, because that was my experience with them. You just asked, do we have any opinions on those? And that's what I remember of the Triangle Boreas.
Yeah, these look a lot like Mordaunt Short speakers to me for whatever reason, which were a good brand, which aren't around anymore. So yeah, listen to them, see what you think. But just remember, they don't sound the same in your room as they're going to sound here. And when you're comparing them to each other, it's very hard to have a level of quality expectation that you can judge everything by. So if you listen to two speakers side by side, like Rob talks about the bass, even on the treble, one of the reasons why Klipsch is, even with their wonky treble response for eons, they were always known to be very bright. Speakers are always very popular. Why? Because when you A-B them, they sound more detailed.
I'm hearing things I never noticed before.
That's right. And then you can really hear this cymbal and this flute and this whatever that, the high note thing. And people love them because for a short period of time, when you're doing that comparison, that A/B comparison in a showroom, they sound very impressive. So, I like going to listen to speakers. You have to understand when you're doing that in a showroom, you are not controlling anything. It is like test driving, a rally car, which is meant to go off road and everything else on the highway, or test driving a, sedan, I don't know, maybe a minivan, off road. You're not putting it in the right element, and what you can take from it. You have to be very careful of what you can and can't take from it. You still
can glean some information from that. It's not a useless test. You can still pick up certain details regardless of that. But if you're going to be, I'm doing a professional review, well, that's not the setting to do it. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. Dazz shared a lengthy email with us, which I did read while Rob was talking about something, and I think it was Paradigm, not Paradigm, the Paramount thing. I got
fair
bored. Since he was feeling as though his life parallels mine quite a bit at the moment. His kids are older, they're going to college, he's starting to empty nest a little bit, so we're kind of in the same boat. So Dazz and Drea have 3 sons, and then their niece and nephew are also living with them. But all 5 kids are either off to university, 2 going to Georgia Southern, and 2 going to Georgia State, or have joined the workforce, which is their oldest son, and they've all found their own places to live. However, nobody has moved all that far away, so any or all of them could come home at a moment's notice, and that's led him to call this empty nest is what that's supposed to say, version 1.0, right? Is that supposed to say empty nest?
It sure is,
empty next, because it says empty next.
No, it's an S.
Next up, or nest up, depending on which how this is going. On the cycling side of things, he spent a day in Miami ahead of leaving on a family cruise vacation. He was thoroughly impressed with Miami's urbanization and bike paths, but he had a small crash, no damage to either himself or his bike, thankfully, but his helmet did make contact with the concrete, so it will be best to buy a new one. He was using a helmet that was comfortable in terms of physical fit, but he didn't love its looks, and it was black in color, which he has now realized he'll never opt for a dark-colored helmet again. Perhaps Tom can understand why. In Florida, and then
Georgia as well. I don't think Georgia's so removed from the climate of Florida that it wouldn't be the same case.
So these got a couple of AV-related topics. Okay, let's go back to cycling.
Yeah, okay.
Because I
figured you would.
Yeah. So Miami does have a very robust cycling scene, and I understand that there are some very aggressive groups out there as far as their speeds and stuff like that. I don't know how much he cycles or how often he cycles or how fast he cycles, but yes, there are a lot of groups in my area as well as Miami. But you can almost always find a group or a group of people who are within those groups who are like, yeah, I wouldn't mind having a slower day. I'll go with you on a ride that's the speed or whatever. So my wife, who cycles sometimes like the St. Pete Cycling Club, their lowest speed ride is usually 18 miles an hour. That's an 18 mile an hour controlled. When you get up to speed, you're going about 18 miles an hour, right around there. It's supposed to be controlled at 18, but we're not robots. And then they go up from there. But my wife rides much slower than that. So she just says, hey, I'm going to be at the ride this weekend. I want to go this speed. Does anybody want to go with me? She'll usually get a handful of people who are like, yeah, you know what? I'm tired of getting dropped by these faster groups. Let me go hang out with you. So yes, 2 things. One, yes, Miami does have a nice cycling. My understanding is a pretty good cycling community. And if you ever do want to cycle on this coast, which is probably about 4 or 6 hours away from Miami, feel free to let me know. I will cycle with you at whatever speed you want to go.
All right.
Helmet-wise, yes, I understand that black is hotter or supposed to be or whatever. A lot of people wear black helmets. I don't put a huge amount of stock in there because they're mostly filled with styrofoam and they're not really transmitting all that much heat. I think through them into you, a lot of the suggestions I give for helmets are, yes, it is like I have a weird shaped head too. I'm not saying that you do, but I have a weird shaped head, and all of the helmets look stupid on me. I have yet to have found a helmet that doesn't look stupid on me. So I kind of lean into that, go with the stupidest looking one I can find.
Yeah,
that's within my price range and has some sort of rotational protection. Right now, within cycling helmets, there's a lot of technology that what they found out is, if you just put like a helmet on your head, yes, you protect yourself from impact, but what happens is as you impact, then you're dragged across the ground or you're spinning or whatever. There's a rotational aspect of it that is where most of the neck breaking comes from. So a lot of the helmets now have some version of MIPS, which stands for something. MIPS stands for something, but it's it stops. The helmet itself will, like, as it crushes, it'll rotate on your head rather than your head being janked to the side or jammed to the side or whatever. So that's the only thing I would recommend on that. And you're going to spend a minimum of $150 on the helmet. You can't really get a good one for less than that these days. Thankfully, they don't require any hard drives or RAM, because
not a lot of RAM.
Go up. Yeah. I came home with a $150 helmet. My wife's like, "Oh my God, you spent $150?" I'm like, "Yeah." The other one I was looking at was $350.
Exactly.
That one was crazy. Like the whole thing moved on your head. Like you put it on, and there was like the outside of it just moved like freely. It's weird. So his first question, he wouldn't necessarily say he's the biggest gamer, but he was discussing everything that's been going on recently with Sony following their announcement about going digital only starting in 2028. And it just created a visceral reaction for him. He's not here for it. Combined with the timing of movies you already purchased being removed from your content library so you can no longer watch them, and no refund apology or apology for it, it just really soured him against Sony and the PlayStation. That's fine, I guess. Yeah. And just quickly looking around online, he's clearly not the only one. And of course, it's not just Sony. Microsoft's gaming news has all been negative lately as well. So it just feels as though playing video games as a whole is losing its joy for him, because gamers are toxic on top of all of this as well.
There's a bit of that.
Do we feel the same way? Is this just a phase that will pass and the joy will return, do we think? Or what could be done to bring the fun back to gaming? All right, so there's a couple of things. I have a lot to say about gaming, and I won't say it all because I've either said it before or I think it's very personal.
And we've got other questions to get to here, too.
We've got other questions to get to, and Rob spent a lot of time on that stupid movie. So I will say that as I've gotten older, my tolerance for games that have a high barrier to entry, and it doesn't even require that big of a barrier, meaning I have to learn a bunch of buttons and it's not very intuitive, or that I have to find an online component of it and play with people I don't know, or I can play with people I do know, but I have to organize everything. All of that has shut down gaming for me almost totally. I play things on my phone very rarely. Almost all my gaming happens on planes.
Yep.
Because that's the only time I'm like shut off from the internet, and I can't doom scroll whatever social media I decide I'm going to be on that day. So no, I don't think it's just for you. I think gaming as a whole has become quite toxic from both the standpoint of the players and the industry as a whole. There are still some studios out there, like, is it Cherry, I think, that made Silk Song and Hollow Knight. Is that right? I feel like that's right.
I can't remember the name.
I can't remember the name of the studio. There are some games out there that are one or two people, or maybe a small handful of people that are being created, and that are just just a game that you download and play, and it's not a continuing service that's constantly trying to bilk you for more money. I just can't anymore with the games as services, persistent online things, games that have gambling mechanics built into them, games that will that are spending the entire time trying to make you feel bad for not playing them. It's like I just can't.
Engagement bait.
Yeah.
To me, all of the negativity, and not just video gaming, all the negativity, it's the online discourse.
Yeah.
We like this is something I need to remind myself all of the time, and I hope you're not offended if I try to remind you too, because it's not that I don't think you know this. It's just it's so easy because news coverage is part of it too, where there is an absolutely outlandishly overemphasized talking about social media discussions and online reactions to things. It is such a small percentage of the global population, right?
Yeah.
Twitter at its height was what, 17 million users or something like that? And yet every news broadcast was just basically reciting Twitter responses to things when Twitter was at its peak. Since then, it's only shrunk by a tremendous amount of users. But it's like that. So like 10 million people out of 8-something billion people in the world apparently get to decide what everybody's saying and thinking about something. And it's like, look,
users are saying that this game has betrayed the spirit of the original. You're like, how many people? Is it one dude on Reddit?
Well, like, even if it's 10 million people, that's not a small number of people. That's a lot of people. It's 10 million people, but out of 8-something billion people, it's a small percentage. And like I have to constantly remind myself of that. It's like the discussions I'm seeing, I'm like, wait, that's all online. It's a self-selecting small group, percentage-wise speaking. It is still a lot of people. When 250,000 people sign a petition, that's not a small petition as far as petitions goes. But as far as all of the people who ever bought a PlayStation, 250,000 people is nothing. It's nothing. And yet they're the only voices we're hearing in the online sphere. So like, don't worry.
We have to stop platforming this garbage.
Yes.
Is what we have to do.
The vast majority of people have no idea about this, are going about their merry lives, are never talking about this with online people, are ignoring all of that and don't know it exists, and they're much happier for it. And then also, go get a Switch 2 before the price goes up, because all I'm doing is playing Switch 2 these days as far as video games going, and I'm much happier for it.
So like Rob, he's fortunate to live within easy driving distance of an IMAX theater that can actually show the 70 millimeter IMAX films. So he didn't buy tickets to the Odyssey in advance because no. So when he casually asked his wife if she'd like to go see it after opening night had already happened, he was a bit shocked to discover that every showing all the way into August was already fully booked. So just like what Rob mentioned, technically they weren't literally sold out, but they had zero interest in sitting in the very front row and all the way over to one side or the other.
It's both. So it's the front row and all the way to the left. There's an open seat there. It's not technically a sold out theater.
So they booked tickets for August 4th, which is a Tuesday, and shockingly early in the morning, since additional showings were added due to demand. That was the only way to get his preferred seats. So in addition to that unexpected situation, he was also rather surprised at how enthusiastic his wife was when he asked her if she wanted to go see it. They had wanted to see Masters of the Universe and Supergirl, but with their nice home theater in the basement and just time just kind of slipping by, they're going to watch them at home now. It's not a not wanting to pay movie ticket prices thing, because he's already been paying for all these freaking kids, so now everything seems cheap when it's only two people. Let me tell you. You know, we went out for lunch the other day, and I went out. We went and got lunch and brought it home because we don't eat out anymore if we can help it. And it was only like $40 for 3 people, and we were like over the moon. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it's so cheap, because usually no matter what we do, it's $150.
Exactly.
So they had interest, and he's perfectly willing to pay for movie tickets, but somehow the Odyssey made itself into a priority and the other movies didn't. So what is that difference? Because again, just anecdotally, he's not the only one. What turns certain movies into events that become compelling enough to overcome how easy it is to just say, yeah, I want to see that, but I'll just wait a bit and watch it at home? Because in the case of the Odyssey, it's not the story all on its own. That's kind of been around for a while. So it's not that it's just part of some mega franchise and you've just got to see it before it gets spoiled. Is being in an actual 70 millimeter IMAX film genuinely that special, or is there just some combination of factors that you really can't plan for that make some movies into something you gotta go see, but not others? Marketing. It's marketing. It's just being inundated.
Some of it. I mean, they market every movie, and some movies get mega marketing, and they still don't quite hit on that factor.
So the mega marketing will get people into the theaters initially. That's why that first weekend of sales, they always like to report that first weekend of sales, because that's the big weekend. And then they'll start talking about whether or not it, or how much it fell off. It fell off really bad, or if it didn't fall off at all. They'll talk about that. But there is there's a level of marketing to get people to get people talking into the theaters to begin with. There's that. There's the Christopher Nolan. He's made a bunch of movies that people really like. There's that. There's the discussion about 70 millimeter IMAX and people not really understanding what it is, but talking about it because he can't stop talking about it. And then the thing that changes, I think, things for like your wife and my wife too, is not all of those other things. Those things get people like me and you into theaters.
Sure.
Okay. But what gets your wife into it is when somebody she knows has seen it and tells her it's good.
100%.
And that word of mouth is the tipping point. And yes, all the marketing stuff gets us into the theater, and we occasionally will drag somebody else along with us. And that somebody else that normally wouldn't have gone, that's the person that makes your wife want to go. And how does that happen? That movie's got to be good. That movie's just got to be good.
It's not unlike the video game question at all. We're seeing the online discourse and giving that way more emphasis than it honestly deserves. And the marketing and studio executives are too, because it is the most readily available, repeatable data that they can get back. What is being said on social media? What is being said on Reddit? They can track that. They can feed it into their AI algorithm. They can do all those things, and they make all their decisions based off of online feedback. But online feedback is a small percentage of people. And it's like, certain movies do a thing that the algorithm didn't account for because it is outside of the online sphere, which is the vast majority of people are outside of the online feedback sphere, and they're the ones actually making the difference when a movie goes, quote unquote, virally. It's not virally popular. It's just good old regular people talking to each other and saying, hey, this was really worthwhile. You should check it out while it's still in the theaters. And that makes so much more difference, and they don't need to go on to an online platform to say it.
Yeah. I remember playing poker with a bunch of old dudes when I lived in Jacksonville many moons ago. And I got invited to this game. I'm not super good at poker, but I got invited to this game, and my wife was like, you need to go make some friends, get out of the house. So I would go to this game. I remember specifically somebody looking at one of the other people and saying, have you been watching Heroes? And the guy's like, no, what's that? And he's like, oh man, this show is it was the first series, obviously the first season of Heroes, which was amazing. And everybody was obsessed with it. And that's when I saw that happen. Mm-hmm. I saw what we're talking about happen. When that person who you would not expect to be talking about a thing talks about a thing, everybody at the table will listen to him. Because nobody looked at him and thought, this is a guy who's going to be watching a superhero show on TV. So he says it, and it carries all this weight simply because it was an unexpected source. So your wife and you, or maybe other people, has heard somebody say something and go, man, I would not have thought that person would have been into whatever this is. I think that's kind of the K-pop Demon Hunters was the same sort of situation where people were like, yep. My grandmother told me it was good.
They didn't put it in theaters. What? Sony sold it for a song to Netflix. Yeah. Netflix was like, yeah, we'll take a flyer on it and we'll throw it out there without any promotion whatsoever. And then it's the biggest movie of the year. Yeah.
Ian, on the topic of clipping, the topic of clipping came up when we were speculating about what caused a speaker to literally start smoking after a couple of capacitors in its crossover exploded on the inside. So Ian was wondering, do tube-based and pure analog pieces of audio equipment clip in the same way as the Class AB amplifiers and modern pre-pro that we were talking about? Could that be part of a reason why audiophiles claim to love tubes and pure analog gear so much? Maybe they're pushing their gear into clipping, but that clipping is smoothed over and more round when using tubes and pure analog equipment. I mean, I believe that is true. That
tubes do clip differently.
Yep. But I also believe that tubes can explode. So I'm not saying that happens, but that soft clipping is, I think, what they kind of call it.
Yeah, I mean, soft clipping in a Class AB amplifier is an attempt to get it to respond similarly to the way that a tube inherently responds. So with a tube amplifier, what's going on inside of that electrical tube when you're getting to a signal that is reaching the limits of the output capabilities of that tube transistor and then going beyond the output capabilities into the clipping region. It's just essentially a physical heat compression that takes place so that it doesn't give you a tabletop wave that comes out of the end of that transistor. You still get a smooth up and down transition, but what it does is it compresses that signal and turns it all into heat. That's where the energy goes. It's got to go somewhere, and it turns it all into heat and basically acts as its own shunting resistor, as opposed to installing a shunting resistor into a Class AB amplifier in order to provide soft clipping. So that's really what's going on there. So which means that yes, audibly speaking, and like the physical movement of your speaker driver is different when you're using a tube-based amplifier connected to it. You don't get the flat tabletop signal that literally gives you a smack. That tweeter or that woofer just went to a flat tabletop. It moved out and then stopped and stayed there, and it doesn't continue in a smooth motion, and a bunch of heat gets dumped into the voice coil, and all of those things happen with nasty clipping like that. You don't get that. You don't get that with the tube amplifier. You get a still continuous in and out movement, but a whole bunch of heat gets generated inside of that tube, and now the tube can explode. And we've seen tubes pop, right? That's what happens when the tube clips instead. So it's not that you're getting away from any possibility of damage. It's not that you're getting away from any results that you really would prefer to avoid. Clipping is not a good thing for any equipment. Doesn't matter whether it's tube-based or Class AB based or Class D based or anything like that. Clipping is not a great thing to happen to anything. But there is a different sound that can happen. It is absolutely audible, and you do avoid some of the worst of hard clipping that can happen. So if that's somebody's reason for saying that they prefer it, I will just say you have traded one potential downside for a different potential downside.
Right.
That's all you've done.
Yes, I agree. Trevor, first up, he wanted to thank us for recommending the Dynaudio IO8XT outdoor speakers, which are available from Parts Express. He also bought outdoor speaker wire that we recommended. They sound fantastic, but they aren't big. He mounted them vertically, but if he mounted them horizontally, he's picturing birds moving in and making them into a resort. So, for his question, he's got a pair of Aperion Intimus 5B bookshelf speakers. Aperion doesn't sell that series anymore, so he wasn't quite sure where to go to get wall mount accessories for them. The Intimus B speakers have 2 threaded inserts on the back so that you can screw them into a wall mount. But what he would really prefer is to use just a basic keyhole mount. So can we recommend an adapter or bracket that can easily screw into the pair of threaded inserts on the back of the speakers to convert those basic keyhole mounts? I wonder if like someplace like Monoprice or Daytonaudio or whatever would actually, Parts Express would have this already ready to be bought. I feel like it should.
Yeah. So I was kind of looking, and I couldn't find that directly. Like just a straight up, basically a bar with 2 threaded insert holes on either side, and then a keyhole mount adapter in between. I mean, that's obviously what he's thinking. Is there just something that simple? And he didn't come across it, and I couldn't find it either. So one thing here is that these are 2 threaded inserts, so it's not centered, right? So. Because what you can get, although, again, strangely harder to find than it really should be, but you can get a little adapter thingy kind of as part of an additional speaker mount, where it's just a threaded insert that goes in there, and then there is a keyhole mount that you can use. So, I mean, I'll have the link for that because you can get those off of Amazon at $23 for a pair. You don't really need the part that's meant to screw into the wall. You're kind of just getting it for the little adapter that turns a 1/4 inch 20 threaded insert insert into a keyhole mount, but you'd probably want to use two of them. So you'd probably want to actually have two, screw heads sticking out of the wall, and then have the two keyhole mounts directly connected to those threaded inserts, so that you can put those in there without, having it being unbalanced and tilting and listing to one side as you do that. So it could be, if what you're really after is just, I don't want to use a ball and socket wall mount and have it protruding out from the wall. If the real reason you're asking for a keyhole mount adapter is so that you can just have a flush mount, you got a couple options there. One, over at Monoprice, they have it. They call it a TV wall mount, but it's basically just a very small Visa mount. I don't actually know if the spacing is perfect, though. I don't actually know the exact distance between the two threaded inserts on the back of that AVRant Intimus speaker. So you'd want to double check. You want to measure there for sure, because these are 75 millimeters apart. Sorry?
Call it AVRant.
You could do that, yeah. But the other thing is, this Monoprice very small Visa mounting bracket, it's very, very thin. It's very, very flush. So that it solves there. But it does use the M4 screws, and the 1/4-inch 20 threaded inserts are a larger diameter than that. So it might be best to just get AVRant stealth mount, because as far as I'm aware, they keep the spacing consistent on their speakers so that you can use their AVRant stealth mount, which is a nice flush mount fit. Costs a little bit more, but you are getting a pair of those for $70. So I mean, it's only $10 more than getting two of the Monoprice mounts. It's definitely more than the very inexpensive little keyhole adapter that comes with that option that I'm going to list from Amazon. But something out of that should solve this issue for you.
James says he was a faithful listener of ours for years, and he always enjoyed the show. He stopped listening for a while because Tom sucks. Oh. No. Oh, I'm sorry. Not because of anything we did, but because he retired and he did a whole bunch of traveling. That's awesome. Yeah. I like traveling. But now he's settling back into home theater, and he's excited to be back listening to our podcast as well. He's hoping we can offer him a bit of advice. He decided to treat himself to a new pair of Klipsch Cornwall speakers, Cornwall, not cornhole, speakers to serve as his front, left, and right. They have the large, vintage-looking floor-standing design with a 15-inch bass woofer and a horn-loaded tweeter and mid-range, and they go for $7,300 a pair, MSRP. I hope you got them on sale. Oh, I've seen these. Those ones.
Yep. I mean, they call them Klipsch Heritage for a reason, because they definitely look like vintage throwback speakers.
The ports on the bottom also look like they're horns, which is funny.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, he's debating whether or not to add a center channel. He does want this to be a surround setup, but he is using a television, not a projector, so adding a third perfectly matched Klipsch Cornwall isn't really an option, as it would force the TV to be mounted too high. Klipsch does have a physically smaller Klipsch Heresy?
Yep.
Or Hershey? Heresy.
It's the Heresy.
All right, I'm going to click on that one too. Hold on a second. Model in the same Klipsch Heritage series as the Cornwall speakers, and one of those could physically fit below his TV, but isn't sure if he's really worth the price to go that route. What do we think? Should he just stick with using a Phantom Center? The question I have to answer that question is, how many people are listening to this thing?
Yeah.
Or would getting a Klipsch Heritage series speaker to serve as a center be a worthwhile upgrade and enhance his home theater system? Let me look at this Heresy thing. I mean, it looks the same. It's kind of angled up, so I guess it's supposed to be on the ground. It's $3,600 a pair, so he's got to buy two of them, I guess. It would seem,
yeah.
Yeah, it would be hard to buy one. I don't know how timbre matched they are with the other ones, so there's that to consider. If it's just you or just you and your spouse, and you can space the floor standing speakers you've already purchased far enough, wide enough, I would go with the Phantom Center and call it a day. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to know this.
Yeah, I mean, you already paid for and have committed to owning the Cornwall speakers. Try it first for sure, because I mean, people get fixated on. I also want this to be surround sound, so that means I have to have a center speaker. It's like, no, you really don't. I mean, there are scenarios where adding a center speaker to your setup is the right solution. There are absolutely those scenarios, but in this case, I mean,
I just don't know how many people are in the house. Usually it's only one or two when you say retired.
A lot of times James is the only person listening to this system. Yeah. Maybe that's not true, but I'm kind of betting that's going to be the case. And then you can sit right in between your pair of Cornwall speakers, and a Phantom Center is A-okay if you go that route. So I'm only going to say, if you have the scenario where you are always by yourself, for some reason not sitting in between your Cornwall speakers, and you can totally notice that voices are not coming from the right location, okay, you need a center speaker. If you are always listening with multiple people and everyone notices, because very often you're the only person who notices and cares that the Phantom Center is not perfectly aligned with the people that you're seeing on screen. So multiple people frequently, and everybody genuinely cares about it and complains about it, okay, you need to buy a center speaker. But other than that, I'd stick with the Phantom, to be honest. Now, I will just say, if you don't want to buy a pair of you end up in bucket number 2 and a center speaker, it really is a must in your system, but you decide you don't want to buy the pair of Heresy speakers and do that whole setup, there is nothing wrong with matching it up with a Reference 3 series center. Klipsch has their RC64 in their Reference 3 series, and that way you can have a traditional center speaker form factor, and it still has similar enough output capabilities that it's going to work well and be able to keep up with those Cornwall speakers. It is over $2,000 just by itself, so if you bought 2 of them, it would actually cost more than the pair of the Heresy speakers, but given that you only need one center speaker, and I don't know what the plans are for the second Heresy if you went that route, I would have no problem getting a Klipsch RC64 in the Reference 3 series.
Yeah. I will also say that I know Rob said if it's just mostly you and you're going to be sitting dead center, take that with a grain of salt. You do not have to sit dead center to have a Phantom Center image
but you
that
need to sit
works
between the two speakers. Typically,
if you have a love seat, right, and you're like, I don't want to sit on the crack, you can sit to the side a little bit. It'll still sound like it's coming from that speaker. That's everything, right? Did we do both of his?
The second part of his question.
Second part. Okay, here we go. He was intending to use one of the speakers he already owns as his surrounds, but he'd like to know our thoughts on what factors would drive our decision if we were in his shoes. He's got a pair of Kef LS50 and a pair of Kef Egg, the HTS 3001 SE wall-mountable speakers, which would have his preferred form factor since they're compact and wouldn't stick out into the room too much. And he's also got a pair of ELAC Unified UB5 bookshelf speakers. Would we recommend any of those pairs in particular over the others? No. And let me tell you why.
This is an issue.
This is an issue. And this is an issue that we've often run into with Klipsch specifically, because a lot of people own Klipsch, but in in speakers that have high sensitivity compared to other speakers. I'm assuming that those floor standing speakers that you have, those big ones, require almost no power in order to get stupid loud.
Yeah.
The
Cornwalls are 99 dB efficiency.
Oh, jeez. Okay. So and I'm not going to talk about Tamara matching yet, because we will talk about that. But just from the standpoint of level matching your speakers, even though those speakers may be further away than your surround speakers, getting to level match with only 24 or 20 to 24, depending on what your receiver can handle.
Ranges,
right. So you have usually plus or minus 10 dB or plus or minus 12 dB.
Yeah.
Right. Is usually where receivers fall. You will not have enough range to get your speakers to be the same volume with similar outputs because of how sensitive your front speakers are. It's not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's difficult and also may not be totally achievable. So if you could level match them perfectly, then you are now having to worry about whether or not your front speakers and your surround speakers are timbre matched close enough so that you will not notice the sound timbre, the sound quality, the characteristics of the sound changing as something pans from the front of the room towards the back. 9 times out of 10, when we are on this podcast and recommending to you surround speakers, we are fine with you going with a different brand of surround speakers than your front, provided that they are timbre matched close-ish.
Yeah.
Close-ish.
We're not
because
super
you will not
picky
notice
about the surrounds. Yeah.
That is almost certainly not the case here. Not only will you not be able to level match them close enough, so they may be louder or softer, depending. Softer, they're going to be softer. Your surround speakers, not only are you going to have that problem, but then the timbre of the sound coming from the Klipsch is going to be substantively different from the timbre of the sound coming from your surrounds. So much so that I think it's going to be noticeable. So you are going to want to put almost surely a Klipsch surround speaker in here. Yeah. Almost certainly. And it's funny, too, because we were talking about the Reference Premiere 2. You're like, oh, you recommend those instead. Maybe not. Maybe not. Depending on what the timbre is of those front speakers, you may be recommending something else.
No, I mean, I'm still going to stick with Klipsch. I mean, they don't have a ton of on-wall options here. And honestly, this is going to have a little bit of hesitation for me, too. Like if the surrounds are physically closer to you than your front speakers, which is typical in a lot of setups, then I'm going to be okay with what I'm going to suggest here. But I'm going to go ahead and say do not deploy your KEF LS50s or the KEF EGG speakers as the surrounds in this particular setup. They are not going to be able to keep up. The ELAC Unify, simply by virtue of it having considerably higher power handling, might be like if you're just dead set on I'm not going to buy any more speakers and I'm only going to use a pair that I already have on hand, then out of those 3, I might deploy the ELAC Unifies, but I would feel bad about it because they are on the lower side of sensitivity, and I don't think you're going to be able to get a trim level match. I think you're really going to struggle, but just in terms of like literal safety for the speakers, then maybe out of those 3, that's the only one I would even deign to possibly audition, but I don't think that's a good choice. So given that they're actually really not very expensive at all, and you said you wanted the slim wall mountable form factor, I'm going to point you at Klipsch's. It is part of the Reference Premiere series, but they're on-wall RP240D. They're kind of clearing them out at Klipsch now because this is an older series and I don't think they're going to have a replacement. So they're only $260 each, which compared to the other speakers that you're buying is so much cheaper that and given that you maybe didn't want to buy more speakers, like this is probably not going to break the bank. They have an even larger model. But all that even larger model does is add some passive radiators. So it doesn't really have any higher sensitivity or output than the RP240, and it costs a whole bunch more money. So the RP240 would be the model to look at here from Klipsch. You're going to get the slim. You're going to get the on-wall. It's 94 dB efficient, not 99, but it has a better chance than the 82 dB efficiency of the ELACs.
Oh my God, 82. I don't think it's going to happen. All right. That's kind of where I landed. You're like, well, what about other brands? Could I get another brand that's highly efficient and horn loaded and all these other things? And I'm like, I'm back to worrying about timbre matching again.
A little bit.
So.
But you could look at like a Power Sound Audio.
You could try them. I would go with a company like that. Only if I was either comfortable with the amount of money it was going to cost me to return them. It's a lot
more money than what I just mentioned.
And to return them. Yes. Because like not many of them offer free 2-way shipping like SVS does, and who knows how much longer that's going to last for. So it's been 2 hours, and we've got Stefan left, who has an extremely long question.
I mean, actually, all of that lower section is just update. It's not even a question. So that we can answer the question for his daughter because it's a
so we'll do Stefan part A.
Okay.
So Stefan's in Belgium. Stefan was also away from listening to the podcast for a while. His work situation was different for half a year, and that completely altered his normal routine. But now he's back to cycling to work every day. And he's catching back up on his backlog of podcast episodes, and we remain one of his favorites.
Thank you.
Stefan Wout van Aert is my wife's favorite cyclist. He's
Okay.
from Belgium, and she loves him. She thinks he's the best. His daughter is moving out, and they have given her a 55-inch LG C6 OLED so that she has an amazing TV to watch in her new place. But the audio leaves a lot to be desired, so Stefan is looking to provide an upgrade. The TV is wall-mounted, so there's very limited space, so adding a soundbar is genuinely the best option. There's honestly no space to either side of where the TV is positioned to put a pair of speakers, and his daughter doesn't want a full surround sound setup, so soundbar is the way to go. He'd like to keep the price to €400 or less. What do we suggest? So it's funny that like Vizio and stuff used to be like the go-to soundbar that we would recommend here, but I don't even know, are they offered over there in Belgium or wherever that is?
I don't know. I mean, Vizio is wholly owned by Walmart at this point, and I don't know how much of a presence Walmart has in Belgium.
Yeah.
So, and that's going back a ways. The Vizio soundbars haven't been the thing to go to for a while. So, how does €270 sound? Because in my estimation of arithmetic, that's under 400. So I'm gonna point you at the Samsung HW B750. There's the B750D from a year or two ago, and now there's the B750F, and they made virtually no changes. And the thing I like about this soundbar is it does full 5.1 discrete decoding. And one of the things he did mention in his email that I didn't put in the text there is, they are primarily concerned about dialogue clarity. And when I'm recommending a soundbar, I do prefer to have a soundbar with an actual physical center speaker of some sort. I do think that genuinely helps, at least giving you the independent control to turn up that center. But a ton of the soundbars that have 3 physical speakers in them, if they don't actually do discrete 5.1 decoding, all they're doing is taking the stereo and they're matrixing their own center. And sometimes that sounds good and sometimes it really doesn't. And if you have the full discrete decoding, I think that makes a genuine difference. So this does actual 5.1 decoding. It doesn't do Atmos, but I don't think that's a worry. You get full 5.1 decoding, full 5.1 playback with a dedicated center that's built in, and the price fits and the form factor fits, and you can use the subwoofer if you want to. You don't have to because it's not costing you any extra.
There's 2 reviews on this on the Amazon website.
Oh, right. On the Belgian website, yes.
The Belgian website. And it says, the first one, I had it translated to English. It says, it was all good, 5 stars.
Yeah.
And the second one is 1 star, delivery 10 days late.
I mean, surely that's Samsung's fault, right? Yes, yeah. Fantastic. Gotta love those. It's the small online feedback loop that is a problem with that one. But no, look, go ahead and look up the reviews of the Samsung. Yeah. You'll find a lot more reviews of the HWB 750D. Don't worry, almost nothing changed between the 750D and the 750H. Out of the not crazy expensive soundbars, this is today the one I feel by far the best about recommending to folks, and I think it will really fit the bill nicely.
All right. We want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank our 120 patrons over at patreon.com, as well as people in the past who have gone to avrant.com and clicked on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and send us a PayPal donation. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. Once again, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 120 patrons over there.
I would thank Infinite Gary, who sent us a movie code for me to test. I did test it. And it works, so you're good.
Hooray!
Thank you.
Thank you, Infinite Gary. Very nice.
Thank you, Stefan, for giving me permission to use his photos on AV Gadgets. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Stefan.
And we got notes of gratitude from Jack, Patrick, James, Greg, and Stefan. Thank you very much for thanking us.
I'll say the names one more time in a slightly different order because somehow that got read strangely. We got Jack, Patrick, Greg, James, and Stefan. That's the order it's written, and that's the order that came in.
I don't know what happened. I skipped one and then backed up. It's just what happens.
But thank you all very much for the notes of gratitude and encouragement because we really do appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AV Rant, I'm Tom Andry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com.
This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.